My name is Patrick Walle, and pleasure to be here to be doing this with you guys. It was a whirlwind getting to the actual championship. Um, I was had the pleasure of being the head DS for the Esports World Championship, the first ever. My day job is I'm a professional musician. I play in the National Symphony, associate principal horn, and I have a coaching business. I've been racing bikes for 10 years and been coaching for, I think, about 6 now. In my business, I started with a good friend of mine, Brendan Hausler's Evoke.bike. And Jeff reached out to me when this was all coming together. It kind of came together last second. I think it was about 16 days. 16 days before the actual event, and asked me to kind of guide the team and the squads and figure out what exactly we were going to do with this race. So I looped Matt in, and Matt said, we wanted to get Zach involved because he's really good with the tech and understands the race. And so we put our heads together, and it was a whirlwind, but I think we got it done. So Matt, Zach, you guys want to do some intros?
Yeah, Matt Stephens, been racing for, 20 years. Just did Zwift, started that when I got injured one year and didn't really use it much after that. But then once Corona hit and lockdown, just started training on that and learning how to race on it, and helped Team Tipco with their racing over the year. And Lauren, being at World Championships, was contacted by Jeff and brought Patrick in, and Patrick brought me in, and then Zach joined in as well, and just had a great experience directing and getting prepping everyone for the championships.
All right, I'll jump in.
You.
I'm Lauren Stephens. I raced in the Esport World Championships. On the road, I raced for Team Tipco Silicon Valley Bank. Like many, I got into Zwift when lockdown happened and really started to use it as a training tool and just, something different to do while all the times were changing and everything was different for everyone. And over the summer, raced in some of the big races on Zwift, and then in the fall actually went over to Europe and got a chance to have a normal season. I guess as normal as it could be. We did the spring classics in the fall, and then I raced in the Road World Championships on the road and in the time trial. And after that, was looking forward to the Esport World Championships, and kind of crazy to race in 3 different World Championships in 1 year, especially a year as crazy as we've all had.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, so I mean, there's just an endless list of differences between a normal road world championship or event to begin with and Zwift. I mean, what are the top differences for you, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, the first, most obvious difference was not being in a hotel with your teammates and going to meals with your teammates and spending time on the bike together. So, we had some meetings over Zoom and got to be introduced to all of our teammates. And yeah, for me, that was definitely one of the biggest differences.
Yeah, that was tricky, and that was, we're we have a esports team, my team, and we do a good bit of communication, and there's a lot more opportunity throughout the course of a season to get to know people and know the way they race and understand people's personalities. And this was my first experience with a kind of a composite team, and I found that really, really unique. Just the getting that figured out and trying to have a cohesive approach right away. That was really, really unique. But so instead of, we don't have these in real life chances to get together, we got together on Discord channel. For anybody listening that doesn't know what Discord is, it's kind of a chat server for gaming, and it allowed us to kind of have some constant dialogue, and as well as in the race, we actually we had Matt and Zach, and Zach had some tech issues, so he had to bounce out. But they were on the line with me, giving me as much information as they could gather about what was happening in the race, and I was communicating that to the riders on both teams. But yeah, I guess my role ended up being a lot of emails, lots of contacting with the riders and with UCI, and with the directors at USA Cycling, and then really taking the information. Matt and Zach did an incredible job of kind of compiling everything they could possibly find. And I thought that the challenge was that we normally in Zwift, you have a good collection of racers who are racing all the time. You kind of know who's hot, who's not, who's going to be suited for this course. You have a lot of data on Zwift Power, which is a website that's designed to kind of track results and everything for who's competing. So you have a pretty clear idea of who's going to be a competitor in the race. Whereas because this is a world championship, you're getting athletes from the road, you're getting athletes more from Zwift, and it's all these different federations. So is balancing how, some of the federations had some super experienced Zwift racers and some just incredibly strong road racers. So it's like, how is this going to act, and how are they going to act together? That was one thing I think we spent a lot of time thinking about. Matt, did you have any particular challenges in gathering data in that regard?
For sure. So there were plenty of athletes on both the men's and women's sides that don't have Strava, don't have Zwift Power accounts, barely had Zwift accounts, and a lot of the pro data can be hidden sometimes. They can choose to hide their data. So basically we have on some athletes had no power data, had no idea what they were capable of going into the race. So we'd have to rely on just previous results, whether that's just in real life results, to kind of estimate who was going to be strong on what part of the course, or if the finish suited them or not. The other crazy factor was the timing of the season. And with the UCI calendar being so loaded in the fall, that, August through, October. A month before Esports Champ, the racing calendar was every week. And so a lot of pros had such a heavy race season, including Lauren, that they were really looking to take a break. World champions, Anna Vanderbreggen just coming off season. Lauren, same thing, just coming off season and starting to train, but in no way top form. So you kind of had to take that into account. And also, what kind of motivation did each of those riders have to either train to be at a top shape, or their experience on the platform, even of how they would approach the race and approach the day, or even the training leading up to it. It was definitely, piecing together a lot of the knowns and the unknowns to just give us the best picture for the race of who were going to be the top contenders.
Yeah, it was tricky because, like you said, if you're just talking about pros, you can normally go week to week and say, okay, who's in the top 10, who's in the top 20, like how are people finishing? But this is totally separate. So they have this dense season, and then there's this full stop and you expect most people to be winding it down, but we didn't really know if some people were or weren't. Um, so that was that was definitely tricky. Um, so strategy wise, we determined basically based on the course that it was going to come down to the last hill. It's just we raced individually. Everybody on the team had an opportunity to ride the course. Matt, you and I raced the course a couple times, and everybody got out there and had some experience on the course and the sections between the climbs. And for anybody who hasn't seen it, a replay yet or didn't watch this, there's basically 4 climbs, forward and reverse KOM, and uh, the forward is a little bit steeper, and that's what the finish on. So is reverse, forward, and between the climbs, it's the way the game works. The momentum gets up so high that the average speeds were just um, of the group were pretty much going to guarantee that the finish was going to come to a climb. So we really had to think about who was going to finish the best on a very short, punchy climb. Lauren, you want to talk a little bit about how that all played out and how it went for you personally, and how our strategy kind of played into things? And yeah, why don't you just tell us about your race?
Yeah, I mean, the climbs were definitely hard, and those were the points that were going to weaken the field, and hopefully, and we did, we split the field. We lost some of the key strong riders that probably, you know, they didn't have the same Zwift experiences a lot. But like you said, in between, there wasn't really much you could do in between because the momentum of the field. And even if someone would have gotten away on one of those climbs, the way the game works in Zwift, a big group of 20 is going to move much faster than even a group of 2 or 3 riders with such long sections in between. So, I mean, it was really good the way that you guys were communicating with us on Discord of what sections were coming up, when we should all be pushing. And that was really helpful just to know, like, okay, you know, these teammates are going all out right now. Like, be sure to stay at the front, be sure to keep pushing so that you aren't one of those ones getting split off. So I think, you know, we really controlled those sections of the race of where it would be difficult. And that was definitely helpful. And then, yeah, in the end, it came down to who had the best 2-minute effort. And yeah, for me, I was actually pretty impressed how well I did. Like Matt said, like coming in, you know, been in an off season, just started training again. Doing those max efforts in the off season is not, it's never easy, but it definitely was not easy on that day.
Yeah. You know, there's a physical and a mental component to, like, you fight all year long, and, you know, it doesn't matter if you know, maybe you have the matches, but, you know, there's a mental side of preparation for a season too. And to kind of just like throw yourself into the heat of battle right after a break I mean, it was a great ride. I mean, you can't put too much pressure on yourself there because it is what it is, you know, like the season can only be so long realistically. Do you want to take us through the last couple K, like how that all went for you and for the team?
Yeah, I mean, in the last couple K, I think about 2K out, we had Christy Tracy throw in an attack to string out the field a little bit earlier than if we would have just waited for the climb to do it itself. And really from that point, like, it was all in because Ashley Molman reacted to Christy's attack, and then the climb had begun. And, you know, when you're doing those max efforts, I don't know what everyone else does, but I don't even look up at the screen. Like, I mean, it's steep. It's all about going hard. And I'm just looking down and hoping for the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard. I mean, I've found in Zwift versus real life, you get you can go to a pretty dark place inside. Like you can really push it hard because all you have to do is pedal. But at the same time, you're missing so much feedback from the road and from like where the crest is and the way it feels underneath you and people breathing and next to you. Like, so there's this whole, you're disconnected from a lot of the elements of like what it's like to suffer in a bike race. I find, do you kind of, you know what I mean by saying that?
Yeah, for sure. Like when I first started racing Zwift, that's what I would always say was the biggest difference was like I couldn't feel my competitors. Like I couldn't feel when somebody was fading or when someone was about to jump, or like you said, the yeah, your trainer's adjusting to the gradient, but you're not getting that same, I guess, micro changes that you would feel on the road, and visually you're not seeing it as clearly. And that's definitely something that when we say learning the platform is like being able to separate those two things and how different it is from racing on the road, even though it's simulating road racing, but there's so many differences, and that is definitely one of the biggest differences is not being able to feel your competitors.
Hmm. Yeah, it's racing, but it's a different form of racing for sure. It's definitely its own beast, and that's why it deserves its own category of bike racing. It'll be really interesting to see as the years go on what the platform or what the racing ends up looking like um, down the line. Do you were you pretty happy with how it all went personally, or I mean, me, I was, you know, hindsight's always 2020. I think if I had more or less, we stuck to the plan, and I think it was the right plan. I think when Christy attacked, if we had put one or two other people to just go all in earlier, that could have been a little bit better because they might have gotten a little further up the road before Moolman was able to you know close that gap. But I think we put her on the defensive, and she was our clear marked favorite because of her experience on the platform, and it played, that course just played right to her strengths, and she was ready for it. It didn't seem like she was in the middle of any off season. She was ready to go. More or less, do you think things went pretty well for Team USA?
Yeah, I think I agree with your same hindsight of like that we could have strung it out a little bit sooner than we did, using a couple more riders like we did with Christy, but just starting that a little further back. But I mean, honestly, when the race finished, like you said, we stuck to the plan. And when we finished, I knew I had given it everything I could and I had followed the plan. And that satisfaction, you know, fourth place, definitely you're upset and you're disappointed with that, but I had that satisfaction of we followed our plan, we did what we were supposed to do, and everyone did their best, and so you still have that positive side to it.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, if we had gone on the attack, you replay earlier parts of the race. Well, maybe if we had sent a 5K out or 10K out or this or that, and really, I think it still would have come to the climb. So that would have been a wasted effort. And we stacked the top 10. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. 3 in the top 10, and yeah, that's
4.
4, 3, 4.
I think four.
Oh, okay, 4. Sorry. 4 in
Okay.
the top 10. That's huge.
Yeah. Um, oh, we could, Matt, in terms of the men's race, I had a technical on my end of all things with like a K to go where I was trying to click to the front of the race, and on Zwift, when you're following a rider, you click up the I guess the power ranking on the side, and I clicked too far and I clicked out of the actual pack, and right as it was getting hot, I really raced blind. So Matt and Zach had to give me all the information, which stunk. I mean, we kind of knew what was going to happen, but they had to basically call it for me, and I was trying to do the best I could with it. So that was sort of frustrating. I don't think it really would have changed much of anything because that their race is just bonkers. But do you want to go through that experience, Matt?
Yeah. Well, talking about the communication, I'm communicating on the DS chat, which Patrick is then relaying any like pertinent information to the riders on that chat. But Lauren's in my garage with me, so I'm giving her instructions also while I'm talking on the DS chat and following other riders. You know, I can tell Patrick easily, hey, Lauren's doing really well right now. Lauren's at the back of the pack right now, because I can see her screen up on the TV. But that was a lot of stress in the women's race for me, of, you know, trying to coach Lauren, manage her effort, and give her instructions on what she needed to do, but also give the DS chat and you and Zach the information from watching the other riders and that kind of, and all that going on. So that was stressful. And then of course the men's race starts before the women's finishes, which is not easy because there's 3 of us, there's 2 teams of 8 and 9 riders. So luckily we had Zach jump in with the men and kind of coach them through the first kilometers, and me and Patrick joined soon after. Lauren's not even cooled down. She's slumped on the trainer, and I'm like, okay, got to go to the men's race. See ya. So she's cooling down while you know, and changing to the men's feed or cooling down, getting a drink or whatever, and I'm zoned in on the men's race now. But yeah, so going into the last 2K-ish, maybe even a little further than that, basically Patrick's like, I'm gone, I don't have anything. And we're like, well, we're not on the rider chat. And yeah, in hindsight, okay, there's 3 minutes of the race left to go. In hindsight, it probably would have been better for me and Zach to jump over the rider chat and do that. But it was pretty seamless how me and Zach just kept calling out stuff to Patrick on the chat, and Patrick was totally blind and was just like kind of paraphrasing what we were saying and shouting out to the riders, okay, Cheney's attacking, and he has no clue how far he is or anything, but he heard Cheney's attacking on the DS chat and now is repeating it to the riders. And like, somebody's got to chase it down, and we're like, Jaden's chasing it down. He's like, good job, Jaden. So it was just a fun game of telephone to get the riders like heads in the race and all the information they needed to get flying blind for Patrick. So and like he said, you know, coming down to the final, you know, it was just everything they had to the finish from the bottom of the climb. So, you know, then it's just cheerleading your rider on to the finish and hoping for the best. So yeah, that was pretty crazy moment. You know, not good timing to lose the feed for sure.
No, it really wasn't. It really amplified the tension of the whole situation. And I'm like, how'd we do?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a little bit different. I mean, all in all, the races played out fairly similar, but in the men's race, we did see the Belgian Federation kind of group attacking, and then Canadian Federation kind of group attacking, and then Chain with a flyer with a couple K to go. But then it came down to the hill, and really Usborne was just a monster. They just came out with this, you know, his power, a little bit of analysis, like what gave this guy the tools to win this race. And it's just incredible power. So, and I think that speaks to one of the unique things about Zwift, where, you know, he doesn't probably have the skills to ride in the World Tour peloton, but he was able to show and showcase his I mean, people knew he had an engine, but like just absolutely, you know, leaps and bounds, crazy power. And that was a cool, for me, that was cool to see. As much as I wanted us to win, to have a rider that was, not really super familiar to bike racing, but kind of familiar to Zwift, to have him have such a good result. That was pretty neat. But all in all, it was a really cool experience. I personally like Zwift because I have a 9-month-old, and with the craziness of the way this year had been, I plan on doing a handful of gravel races, which none of them happened, but I was still able to compete and train, and it's really the competition of the platform, I think, is really, really cool. So you have limitless, really top end competition right from home, and I think that will really, as the years go on and more and more people embrace it, that will just continue to grow and get better. But anything else you guys want to add? This is great. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for being a part, Lauren, and congrats on an incredible ride.
Thank you.
You guys have anything you want to add?
No, Jeff Pierce, was the guy at USAC to put this all together, and he's new to Zwift and had to kind of figure it out as he went, of talking to the UCI and figuring out all the requirements, all the WADA requirements, anti-doping, all the technical side of the trainers, distributing the trainers, and everything like that. And it's quite a big operation to put it all together in a pretty short amount of time as well. So it was pretty intense few weeks to get ready.
Yeah, filling in just about, it'd be 9 p.m. Be like, okay, got to get to the rest of these emails. It was a lot of that. But thanks to you both, and thanks to Jeff. All in all, it was considering how many things had to line up in that 16-day time period. It was a pretty cool experience, and excited for maybe a next one.
Yeah.
Look forward to the next one.